All right. Welcome to the live stream. Come on in. Uh-oh. Let's not echo everything. How is everybody doing? It's Tiff. I'm here with the Next Level Nurses, here to actually answer some viewer questions. The most consistent question I've gotten since the channel inception. We just started this channel in January, and so far I've gotten 3 comments that have been questions on this exact topic. So I'm going to reveal the topic to you. The topic tonight is basically, if I already have a degree, what should I be doing as far as nursing school? If I have a degree and I want to switch careers into nursing, what's the fastest way? What's the smartest way? What is the cheapest way? So I'm going to pull my screen up so that you guys can see the topic for tonight. This question has gotten asked quite frequently. So, considering I've only gotten like 9 organic comments on this channel in the first place, we got a 33% rate of getting this question when you already have a degree and you want to go to nursing school. There are a lot of components to this person's question. I'm going to go to pull up their actual question and I'll read it aloud. Before I do so, just a quick introduction. I'm Tiff. I'm a bachelor's prepared registered nurse. I started nursing school in my mid 30s as a career change. I want to help you do the same if you are interested. I entered my accelerated nursing program, and by the grace of God and some really good study skills, I graduated with a 3.98. I took my NCLEX, passed it in an hour, which is our licensing exam, in the minimum amount of questions, which is now 85 questions because we're in the next generation NCLEX. So that's going to become relevant when I talk about, passing the NCLEX is going to depend on the quality of school that you go to. I have to give some props to the quality of nursing school that I went to help me reach that goal. But let's go ahead back into the question. I'm going to read it from the beginning for you guys. Thank you for this video. I'm looking to change careers and I'm trying to move into nursing. I currently work as a medical interpreter and translator, and I have my bachelor's degree in international studies. The BSN program seems to be like a lot of effort and time for me at the moment. I do have to work through my degree, and I'm also a single parent. I'm now considering doing an LPN program to transfer into the BSN in the future. I keep reading that it's redundant to do so, especially since I already have a bachelor's degree, and that I should just bite the bullet and go for ABSN, which means accelerated BSN. The current program that I'm completing prerequisites with so that I can join their ABSN this coming spring is a hybrid program that is pretty self-taught, meaning the greatest chunk of content comes from textbooks, and we also have resources like study apps and YouTube videos, as well as research papers. It's hard, especially because learning like that requires so much more effort and time. In your opinion, would getting an LPN first and then slowly working towards the BSN be redundant? Financially speaking, is that the more expensive route? Or would I be ahead when it comes time to get my BSN because I already have my bachelor's? Thank you for your insight. So, this was a truly excellent question. And like I said, I get some iteration of this question. Pretty much, I've gotten it once a month since starting the channel. So, the first thing that I want to go through that she didn't ask, but that has been asked before, is does the degree that you already have matter? It does not. For an accelerated BSN, your prior degree for most programs does not matter. So if you're interested in doing an accelerated BSN at a state school or even a private college or university, the only thing that really matters about your bachelor's is that you have one. So in my accelerated BSN program, there were people who had graduated with marketing degrees. There are people who had accounting degrees, people who had art degrees, philosophy degrees, English majors, a bunch of things that were non science. However, they were still accepted. So, with that, the only thing you do need is a completed bachelor's degree to join that accelerated nursing program in addition to whatever that prerequisite requirement is as well. So they mentioned the commenter before. Let's see if I can go back. They said that they were doing some prereqs. So that is good. You are going to need that. And those prereqs are going to be science based. They're going to be your anatomy, your anatomy and physiology, your chemistry, possibly organic, possibly regular chemistry. It is going to probably involve nutrition and a psych class. Those are going to be your most common prereqs. So the degree does not matter. The next thing that she mentions is that she is going to have to work. She is a single parent. And by the way, big ups to all of the single parents out there and just parents in general that are pursuing nursing. I had a few in my nursing program. I don't know how y'all do it. You're superheroes, and we are glad to have you in the field. Accelerated nursing programs are hard work. Okay, so you can expect a lot of studying. You can expect some very condensed and stressful semesters. You can expect 1 to 2 days of your 12-hour, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. clinical shifts. And they feel more like 14 hours because when you count commuting and you got to get there early so that you can get report on time, and then you got to stay late for post conference, which is kind of when you sit with your nursing school clinical group and you debrief for the day, going over all the patients that you saw, the conditions that you saw, the impact that it had on the patient, what treatments they got, what labs were ordered, et cetera, et cetera. It can feel like it's more of a 14 to 15-hour day. So I'm going to actually show you guys my schedule when I first started my summer. So when I first started my nursing program, I think that summer I had over 22 credit hours. I can't remember if it was like 23 or 26, but it was a lot of credit hours. A normal undergraduate semester is going to be 12 to 15 credit hours. You can expect exams basically every week or every other week, especially for that initial semester. The initial semester of an accelerated nursing program is going to be really, I don't want to say a weed out period, but they're going to throw everything at you because you have to learn the foundations of nursing theory. You have to learn all of your intro to nursing classes. You have to learn just your basic safety things, a basic run through of pharmacology, what meds you will see, what to expect, side effects, what to never administer to a patient. You have to go through like communication 101. It's a lot, and they front load the effort in these programs typically. So I was in class from 8 a.m. until 3:30 a.m. Monday through Thursday, and then there was still work assigned every Friday, but it was something where they allowed us to work from home during that time, so that did cut down at least on the commuting. But from 8 a.m. with a 30-minute lunch until 3:30, oftentimes we would run until 4. I was in class during that summer semester that we first started. And the types of courses that I took were essentials of nursing practice and then a practicum, which is like a lab, which would then turn into your clinicals after you get out of this basic sequence and go into your more advanced nursing courses like medical surgical nursing, pediatric nursing, advanced care nursing, obstetrics nursing, etc. So my summer semester was crazy. Um, it's not just that the content is hard, it's also that you're doing a lot of things for the first time during that initial semester when nursing school starts. So this was when I got to med-surg, which was still in my summer semester. I had class from 8:30 until 5 p.m. Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesdays and Thursdays from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I had my medical surgical clinical in a hospital on a unit that had a little mix of everything. It was more cardiac medical surgical, but we had a little of everything. Like I saw an oncology case, I had a pediatric, I had a few peds, patients. So I saw a little bit of everything, but I mostly saw cardiac. So that was my summer. By the time we got to fall, it was not too bad. My fall schedule, we had classes every Tuesday from 8:30 until 5:15. Thursday, the same cycle of classes, 8:30 until 5:15. Wednesdays I was off, and then Fridays from 7 to 7 I had a clinical. The first part of the fall it was psych. The second part of this fall it was OB or obstetrics, labor and delivery, postpartum, etc. So this was a little more manageable. The tests are still coming up, but not every week. They're at every other week by the time you kind of get over that hump of all your intro nursing courses. So that is good. Um, by the way, drop questions in the chat if you have any specific questions about this sequence. This is just to give you an idea of what things were like for me. The tests were still hard. They did become harder at this time in the school program. But the physical days that you had to be in school, the fact that it was only 2 days of having that lecture based didactic learning was a relief. And then 1 day of clinical, it was a relief. At least it felt like that by this time. So, again, the program that I attended and the programs that most accelerated BSNs have are going to front load your effort, meaning those foundational courses are going to be right in the beginning. The clinicals, you're going to start with maybe 2 or even 3 a week. And it's just going to be the hardest, not necessarily intellectually, but it's going to be stressful because everything is new. You're learning new concepts, you're learning a whole new way of thinking through the nursing model. You're learning how to share information with other medical professionals and with peers. You're learning just how to adapt to being in a new environment, how to communicate with patients when they are stressed, when they are hurting, when they are asking questions that at that time you don't know the answer to yet. You are just getting into the action of caring for patients and learning those dynamics and the healthcare system dynamics. So it's very overwhelming in the beginning, but it's doable. And then it tends to calm down as you progress through your sequence. And by my spring semester, it was not that bad. I had a full class day on Tuesday, but as you can see, I started at like 11:30 until 5. You also had the option of doing like an earlier class where you would start at maybe I think 8 and then be out at an earlier time than 5. And then I did have on Thursdays from 11:30 to 7:30, but this evening class was an online class, and it was also me opting into taking a nursing grad class that wasn't required for my BSN. So that was hard, but I opted into that. That wasn't in the regular sequence, and that's not something that you would be expected to do unless you went to a school that offered that and you wanted to take that opportunity. And then I had my clinical all day. I know it says from 7 to 1, but it was from 7 to 7. And then we got rid of this half day over here. So I did not work during my program. I had the support of my husband heavily, especially during that first semester. Shout out to my hubby. Thank you, babe. He was meal prepping for me. He was really helping me make it through. Once those first clinicals hit in med surg, I was really feeling the pressure. Um, it was challenging, but it was not impossible. And I did have friends who worked, but during that first semester, while they were getting their bearings, a lot of them did have to come up with alternate arrangements, flexible hours, remote work, working longer on weekends to compensate, going part time, or even temporarily leaving their work until the hardest part of the program was done. And then they return to work in the fall or, seasonal work of working outside of when classes were happening. So a flexible work schedule can help, but the accelerated BSN is hard. It's exactly what it sounds like. It is accelerated. You're condensing a 4-year degree into mine was 14 months. Some are as short as 12 months. They can be difficult. Now, is the LPN redundant? Okay, so this is where it gets controversial. I am a RN BSN. You can also get the RN at an associate's level. A BSN RN and the associate's level RN, we take the same test at the end of our programs, which is the NCLEX RN. An LPN, which is a licensed practical nurse, in some states it's called an LVN, which is a licensed vocational nurse. These are also called diploma nurses. They take the NCLEX PN for practical nurse. There is a different credentialing for them. There are different scopes of practice. We are all nurses, and we are not going to be elitist on this channel, okay? Because we need nurses from the doctoral level all the way down. They're needed in the field. We need compassionate, smart people who are inspired to care and problem solve and help people, okay? So I would begin by looking up LPN program times where you live. In the state of Pennsylvania, it takes 15 months to become an LPN. An accelerated BSN can be done in the state of Pennsylvania as short as 12 months to 15 months. So it's roughly the same amount of time, if not longer, for the LPN. You do have different credentialing, a different test at the end to become licensed when you go for your LPN. When you become a nurse, this means that you have a different scope of practice. There are things in every state, and you'll find that in your nursing, your state compact, what you can do. You want to look over that. They'll have regulations for what you can do as an RN, what you can do as an LPN, what you can do as an NP, which is a nurse practitioner, and so on. So, as far as the expense part, essentially, if you start at the LPN, you may be paying for that LPN diploma, and then you may be paying again for your BSN RN, if that's how you choose. Also, you could have your employer as an LPN do tuition reimbursement if you want to go towards your BSN in that way. You would want to look up details as to what the tuition reimbursement actually looks like. You would want to talk to other employees or make sure you look up online that hospital system that you think that you would like to work in as an LPN and see how much tuition reimbursement they offer per year, per quarter, however they, divide that out for employees. Some people do make that plan and it works great for them. Other people make that plan and they find that there are a lot of stipulations. Reimbursement is only, you know, $300, per credit hour, and maybe where they want to get their BSN is more than that. So they are still paying some, or maybe they will only pay for 3 credit hours, a semester, and you want to go and finish that BSN and chip away at that faster than the rate that they will reimburse for. So you always want to, talk to HR. If you're interviewing for jobs, asking them about that up front. It shows that you want to take initiative, all of that stuff, and that you want to go further. So, while some people may look at it as redundant, if it's the right thing for your life where you are, then who am I or who is anyone to say that that is the wrong move? In a perfect world, all of us would have a scholarship, right? Everyone would have a perfect family that gives support and just does all this amazing stuff, drives them to school, drives them to clinical, and, you know, free babysitting, free childcare, and we would only have to work 15 to 20 hours a week to pay for our living expenses. But unfortunately, in the real world, that's not really how most of us, get to enjoy the journey of pursuing higher education. There are usually confounding factors that are happening. There are life circumstances that are happening that this commenter mentioned in their comment. So, the most important advice that I could give you is to build with the bricks that you have, meaning use what you have to get where you want to go. You do want to make a decision knowing all of the facts. So I would say look up LPN salaries in your state, in your city or county or zip code. Look that information up. Look up the RN BSN information for the same region so that you're comparing apples to apples. LPNs do make a lower salary than RNs on average, but people compensate for that by, you know, having a hustle, taking on extra hours, being highly selective in the types of jobs that they take. There are LPNs that out earn RNs that exist, okay? So look up the stats in your area, look up channels on YouTube or even accounts on Reddit or conversations on Reddit, you know, on Facebook about real LPN experiences and real RN experiences in your region where you're from. See how they're living, see what jobs they're taking, see if they like them or not, see how stressed out they are, reach out to people. Um, if the difference in choice between getting the accelerated BSN and getting the LPN means that you end up waiting another 10 years for perfect conditions to join the ABSN versus getting the LPN now and bridging forward as you work, then I feel like the LPN is going to be an obvious winner because you get to achieve something incredible, something to be just as proud of, something that will give you the option of upward mobility at your own pace. So I say, whatever gets you into the field, based on the metrics that are most important to you, those are the metrics that you need to weight more heavily in your decision. So the cheapest would be LPN, the fastest may be accelerated BSN, the easiest as far as taking these difficult classes at a slower pace, more conducive to working, maybe LPN. You know, and I will say in the question, let me go back to the actual question. This part made me think when she said it's a hybrid that is very self-taught or pretty self-taught. The chunk of the content comes from textbooks. We also have resources like study apps and YouTubes. It's hard. Learning like that requires much time and effort. That's absolutely true. You do want to select a program that is, oh, I got a question. What about the BSN but not accelerated? I will address that. What I will say is if the accelerated BSN or the LPN, whatever program you're considering, if it doesn't offer support, that's going to change things. My program had advisors guiding us every semester. There was a learning coach there that would test you and see what your easiest learning mode was, whether you're auditory or tactile, you have to touch things and move things and manipulate things, or visual learner. There were a lot of different channels for support through that difficult degree. We had tutors available for every nursing class that we took, and our professors had office hours regularly that they would invite us in. We could come and chat after taking an exam. If it didn't go the way we expected, if there was something that really stumped us. And after every exam, we had rationales given for any question that we got wrong. So there was a lot of support at my accelerated nursing program. If your ABSN, where you're thinking of going, is more self taught and that is not really how you learn, that doesn't mean it's impossible, but that's something that you should consider. And another thing that you should look at, whether you are doing LPN or accelerated BSN, is those NCLEX pass rates. How many students that are in that program now, that were in that program last year, sat down for their licensing exam, which we all need to work legally in our states as nurses, whether that be LPN or RN? How many students took that and passed? How many students graduated the program and took that licensing and actually became a nurse afterwards? When you start to see lower NCLEX pass rates in the 70s, in the low 80s, you want to start asking some questions. What support is available at the school? How does the school handle it if we underperform on exams or tests or a class? You want to definitely set yourself up where you can put your best face forward as a student and you have the support that you need. Now, the BSN, but not accelerated, is going to be the longest road to take. You can transfer in as a transfer student, and it will take you 24 months if you've already done all of your prereqs. If you want to start at the BSN level fresh out of high school, then it's a 4-year degree. So it's a 4-year degree if you're starting fresh. If you're transferring in from having another degree, from taking prereqs, etc., to a BSN, non-accelerated, then that's going to be typically 24 months. If you do an accelerated BSN, you also still have to have your prereqs done, but then it's anywhere between 12 to 15 months where I live. So that is your answer for what about the BSN but not accelerated. So I'm hoping that this did offer a little bit of insight into the LPN, LVN, BSN, accelerated BSN questions. It's a topic that hits very often. And I know, hey, we can get inspiration from anywhere. There's a verse, Ecclesiastes 11, verse 14. It says, "He who watches the wind, waiting for all conditions to be perfect, will not sow seed. And he who looks at the clouds will not reap a harvest." And what that basically is saying, if you wait for the perfect conditions before you go back to school. If you wait, I want to do it this way, and this is the only way that's going to work for me, and I'm going to wait until everything in my life is perfect. You're not going to get there. You're going to waste valuable time where you could have started and stumbled your way through, a faster option or a cheaper option or an easier option, and then works your way up the ladder to where you feel most comfortable. And that's not to say that you shouldn't feel comfortable at the LPN. I'm just addressing the question that the person wrote to me. They expressed interest in wanting to bridge that up. So just saying, sometimes it's a certain way in our mind, and we have to be flexible and take inventory of what our life is like and what benefits could be done by just acting now, even if it's not the most efficient action, even if it's not, the most cost saving action. Will it change the course of my life to be able to be an LPN in 3 years, have my credentialing, work, and then end up being an RN BSN by year 6 instead of waiting 10 years for everything to be perfect to get into the RN BSN program? So that's something else to think about. It's never going to feel like it's the perfect conditions, but I would just encourage you to start building with the bricks that you have. And good luck on your prereq, the rest of your prereq classes. I have some study guides. I'm still in the process of formatting them before they get published, but I have some study guides I would love to send you. This was an excellent question, and thank you so much for tuning in to the channel. Guys, I'm going to wrap up this live. If there are no other questions in the chat, I'm going to wish everybody a great journey because seriously, I'm going to go back to my main camera now. It's hard. I definitely understand that making these decisions is difficult. It feels so disorienting. There are so many different levels of like graduating and licensing and nursing that can be very confusing. But you have a friend in me. Keep sending in comments, keep sending in questions. I would love to answer them. And thank you so much for joining me on this live, guys. I'll see you next time. Bye.